With the January tier shifts, the oft-overlooked Necrozma Dawnwings drop to you Ubers, as expected. Because if you're using this guy in Ubers, that means you're not using Duskmane, which is a pretty big problem on an Ubers team. But is it too strong? A lot of people think yes, and so we're looking at a suspect test. Now, this is a slower way to ban something, because it isn't so obviously overbearing that it needs a quick ban from the council, so instead we're getting a community-based way to take tiering action. Basically, a suspect test sets up the qualifications, players who meet the qualifications are able to vote, and if a majority, I believe, of 60% vote ban, then the Pokemon is banned from the tier. Now, there are two ways to get qualifications. It's an alt account with a certain prefix, getting a certain GXE score, which is just another ladder measure of generally how good a player is, or the winners and runner-ups of certain room tours, which have been posted on the Discord. For example, I was runner-up in one of these room tours, and so I'll be voting. And I will be voting ban. Why? Well, Necrozma Dawnwings has a lot going for it. In a place where you don't have to worry about running Duskmane, this thing is very easy to throw on a team. First of all, it has great bulk, 97 HP, 109 defense, 127 special defense, as well as Prism Armor, which is immune to Mold Breaker and effectively makes super effective attacks do 1.5 times damage instead of double. Also has a great move pool and great stabs, and its only real weakness is in its typing defensively, very weak to Dark and Ghost moves. This is why it's a great Terror abuser, usually Fairy, because there's not a lot of Steel and Poison moves flying around, but sometimes Fighting or Rock work too, for more offensive firepower or the right coverage. Now, it's not one set that Necrozma Dawnwings uses to dominate the tier, it's a collection of sets. As we see here on the right side, this is an example of all the kind of things Necrozma Dawnwings can do. There's 5 main sets I've seen flying around which are pretty viable. There's the physically bulky Grassy Terrain Abuser, which becomes almost unkillable on the physical side after Grassy Terrain, and the Grassy Seed proc. For example, a Iron Head from King Gambit to a max defense Terra Fairy Necrozma Dawnwings does about 27%, which is pretty fucked up. That's too bulky, man. The general set, which is very splashable, is Calm Mind, Moonlight, with Stab, usually the Stab being Moonblast Beam, and Terra Blast Fairy. We've seen how Fluttermane's able to do things with that Stab. So, this thing with reliable recovery, a way to set up, and just also the immediate presence of 157 special attack, it's very hard to deal with defensively. Meteor Beam with Power Herb is another set that people use. Basically getting the power of specs after one move and then just being impossible to switch in on, which is Meteor Beam, Moongeist Beam, Psyshock, Terra Blast, a menagerie of other coverage options it can use. Very hard to deal with, again, defensively. Choice specs, same idea, except you don't have that ability to switch. Instead, you just have the immediate power of, 1.5 boosted Moongeist Beam, Psyshock, Terra Blast, whatever. And also, it's able to use Trick Room quite effectively. With 77 speed, which is pretty poor for the tier, it's able to outspeed most things under Trick Room, which it can set up for itself. So unlike Ursaluna, which needs something else like Magearna to set up and then pivot in, this thing can easily set up a Trick Room for itself with that kind of bulk, and start firing away. So is Necrozma Dawnwings going to be banned? I think yes. I think most people think it's too strong, too splashable, and too hard to check reasonably. Warping the meta, as we can see from the S rankings. As part of the viability rankings, there's only 2 S rank Pokemon, Necrozma Dawnwings, and its pest counter, Arceus Dark, which isn't even an actual counter, it kind of just forces you to run your Terra Fairy, and so even then, Arceus Dark can get defeated. I mean, we've seen what a strong special attacking guy with just even Ghost and Psychic Stab can do. And so that's why I think Necrozma Dawnwings is going to be banned, and we should see pretty soon. Will it be banned? I really hope so. Thanks for watching.